I think the challenge that we're facing at the moment is the way in which the role of the prison and the role of corrections is being presented to the public by the political masters, and we have a change in language that's starting to worry a lot of people. We hear a lot of talk about prisons as being important for the purposes of public safety, rather than the minister talking about the role of corrections as being one of reducing reoffending. That change in language is significant because what it is doing is actually reneging on their responsibility to address offending, and instead say that our primary role is to incapacitate people who are seen to be a threat to the public, and by doing that we keep the rest of New Zealand safe. What it actually fails to do is acknowledge that 85% of the people who are in prison today are going to be released within the next 2 years. And so all that policy does is defer the time when people will be released and likely to harm. So if they're spending time in prison, there is no adequate rehabilitation, there is no commitment to supporting prisoners when they leave the prison, then the chances of them reoffending are quite high. When you think about the impact of imprisonment universally, what we know is that the longer people spend in prison, the more likely they are to reoffend when they leave. The harsher the sentence and the more inhumane the conditions will also contribute to reoffending. So what we are seeing, I think, is a system in which we are guaranteeing that there will be more victims as the result of the approach that's being taken.
You also stated that New Zealanders have an intolerance of people who are different to ourselves. You said about Māori being treated by the judicial system in the 1950s has contributed to the high level of Māori offenders and also the formulation of gangs in the 1960s. You stated that we need to reflect on our own perceptions and prejudices. So how can prison stigma be reduced in the public?
Look, I think this is a really important issue, that where the language that is being used not only by politicians but by public servants is the language of us and them. So the presumption is that offenders and the mentally ill and the socially disruptive are people that are in some way inferior to us. And by constantly reinforcing that, we then can justify treating them as less than human. So we can justify double bunking in cells. We can justify locking people up from 4 in the afternoon till 8 in the morning. We can justify housing them in containers. We can justify the denial of programs of rehabilitation. Those approaches, almost guarantee that people who do leave prison will leave feeling worthless, feeling that they have no sort of dignity, or are unlikely to be treated with respect. What happens then, of course, is that often they come out angry and defiant. They will not conform with authority. They will not relate with authority, so they won't have anything to do with the police or child, youth and family, and so become almost impossible to change. What is needed probably at that point is people from the community who make it clear to them that they accept them as people, that they are there to support them should they need help, that they're there to hold them accountable if they breach socially acceptable standards, but with a loving heart. And if those people have that sort of level of support, then there's no doubt that they will change.
Because prisons are often known as to be a cold environment riddled with violence, which led to the establishment of faith units, where kind of unconditional love and restorative community values are placed upon them, and often then the offenders are accountable to peers. Has this been successful?
Yes, it has been. At the moment, Prison Fellowship is trying to get the Department of Corrections to carry out an evaluation, which they undertook to do as part of the agreement, and the Department of Corrections, for whatever reason, doesn't want to invest in that. We know that it's successful because we have many stories of transformation of people who went in there, who found beliefs in God, and who made a faith commitment, and who are anxious to pursue that faith when they leave, and do so. And with support, they gradually transform, and often have an urge to give something back to the community, and in turn become either volunteers or mentors, or work within the system. One of the features of the faith unit is that there are 3 or 4 different themes that come through regularly with the prisoners. One is that they can change, that there is a capacity to change if they want to, and that there are people who will support that change. Secondly, an understanding that conversion to faith is not an event, it's a journey, and that it's okay, to make some mistakes along the way. It's okay to regress. There will be support for you. Thirdly, that they want the opportunity to redeem themselves by helping others. And so redemption and reconciliation with victims and with the wider community is a constant theme. And we, make sure that they have the opportunity to meet with their victims and with others, and express their remorse for their behaviour, but also carry out actions that demonstrate that commitment. So, we're starting to see the emergence of what Henry Nguyen called wounded healers, people who have suffered that and who become quite dynamic leaders within the community, changing the lives of others.
Thank you very much for your time.